Hi everyone, it's Tim from Booth.Events here. Booth.Events is a photo booth platform that lets you run events quickly and easily and reliably. And today we're going to take a quick tour around the product. We won't go into too much detail. The point of this video is just to get you comfortable with where we're starting. Okay, so here you can see the Booth.Events dashboard. This is in my web browser. So in my web browser you can see I'm at dashboard.booth.events. And this is the first thing that you're going to see when you sign in for the first time. You start on the dashboard and you can see there's 4 tasks I have to do here at some point. I can choose to do them when I want. They're just helpful reminders of things I haven't done yet. And on the left-hand side, you can see that I've got some different pages. I've got events, track screens, sticker sets, templates, devices and uploads, and my account. We're going to go through what all of those are. In the top right, you can see who I am. I'm signed in as someone called Toronto's Top Events. I have no photo at the moment because I've just started. I'm on the starter plan, again, because I just started. And you can see I have some actions I can do here on the right-hand side, like signing into shared gallery. We'll get into all of that in a minute. So first of all, if you're on an iPad or you're on a mobile phone, this will look quite different, and that's fine. One thing I want to recommend is that you don't do this on a phone. Either use an iPad or a computer, something that has a bigger screen, because we've designed it to be easiest to use on those devices. If you're on an iPad, instead of seeing this right-hand area where it says download app, you'll have a little blue drop down or a little drop down in the top right, and you're going to want to use that to expose this right-hand sidebar. Okay, so let's get into what's going on here. So if I click on events, I go to the event page. And here I'll be able to see all of the events that I've created. An event is a thing where photos and videos live. It's a thing that you launch on the iPad. And when guests are using the iPad to create photos or put in their email address and all of that kind of stuff, then that will all appear on the event. So you're going to spend some time on this events page. It's a pretty popular page. Attract screens is where you can create what we call attract screens, and they are like screensavers for the iPad. So what will happen, and we'll demo this in another video, is when you have the iPad running for a while and no one's using it, it will show the attract screen, which is usually a video. By default, it's a video of a fiery scene to try and get people's attention. And that's the purpose, to get people to come over to the iPad and touch it. You can create your own attract screens here. And similarly, you can create your own sticker sets and your own templates here as well. And we'll get into what those are. Sticker sets are stickers you can put on the iPad, little PNGs that guests can drag out and dress up their creations. And templates are very important. Templates control exactly how the iPad takes photos. Does it take 1 photo or 3 photos? Are the photos landscape or portrait orientation? How are they laid out? Do we have a logo or an overlay on top? All of that is controlled by the template. So we're going to go into some more detail later, but we have other videos for templates, which you can check out on our YouTube channel. And then finally, the last 2 are devices and uploads. So at the moment, I have not signed in with an iPad on this account. It's a new account, so I don't have any active iPads, and I don't have any uploads. An active iPad simply means an iPad that's licensed, and it's specifically only iPads. iPhones don't count. You can have as many iPhones as you want. iPads, each iPad has to have a license, and you can learn more about that on the plans page. And finally, we have the account page. And this is where I can see who I'm logged in as, what my email address is, and I have the opportunity to change my email address and my password. This is also where I can edit my profile, and that's a bunch of information about me, including stuff that my guests will see. So we'll go into that in some detail. And we can look at billing plans. So if you want to purchase a plan or an event credit package, you can do that there. My sharing settings, so how my email and texts go out and whether I have a custom domain connected. That's all what you can see on the account page. Okay, so let's go back to the dashboard and let's go step by step. So first, let's create our first event. We're going to just click that create event right there. We're just going to call it my first event. Simple enough. And now I'm on the events page inside that event. So if I go back to events by clicking events on the left-hand side, Now I can see that event there. I can see I've got 2 free events left now. And if I click my first event, I'm back in that event I just created. So by default, you can see we have some plain templates assigned to this event. Now, do you remember how I said templates are what control how many photos the iPad takes? So here you can see each of these little thumbnails for these templates has only one photo area, that orange thing with a 1. That means each of these templates is only going to take 1 photo. And you can see that written under there as well, 1 photo. So if I want to change that, I can click Change on Templates. And here I have a list of my templates. I don't have any at the moment because I haven't made any, and a bunch of public templates. So let's go ahead and choose, say, this one here, get rid of the other ones, or maybe we'll leave one attached and say Save. And now in this list, you can see I've got a template with 3 photos and a template with 1 photo. Now, this is how events use templates. By default, events can have as many templates as you want assigned to them, and guests will get to choose out of the ones that you've picked. So we'll see that when we demo the iPad app, but if you don't want guests to have this choice, you can select only 1 template. My sticker set, we're going to stick with using the default stickers. The attract screen, we're going to leave blank. That means that there's a default iPad attract screen is going to be used. And that leaves the most important part, which is the top here, where I can see some information about my event. First, I can see the event date. So that's when this event is scheduled to happen. Now, don't get too hung up about this date. This date doesn't determine when your gallery will start its timer and then expire or anything like that. This date is just for you to help you stay organized. In order to determine when this gallery will expire, therefore when this event will expire, you can see here, this is going to happen after the first upload. So what that means is the first time that I use the iPad app to upload photos to this gallery, and therefore this event, then that starts the timer going. And then the timer right now is 3 days. If I want more time than that, I can upgrade my plan because paid plans have much longer expiry durations. Okay, so let's go ahead and edit that event, and let's change the date to the end of the month. Simple enough. And here I can see a bunch of information. I can enter some of my own notes. Those will show up on the iPad. I can enter an ID if I have my own CRM system and I want to have an ID that I can match up, and the ID is searchable, so that makes it easy to find. And now I have a bunch of options about how guests can interact with the gallery. These are kind of important to understand. Let's talk about the defaults first. Here you can see that guests can view the entire gallery by default. When that's on, that means that if someone gets their photos, they can also go and see everyone else's photos as well. If you don't want that, just turn it off. Another thing that you can do is you can say, yes, they can, but they also have to have a passcode. If I set a passcode, then guests are going to need it to see the entire gallery. So let's go ahead and just type in a passcode. We'll use the most silly passcode imaginable, which is passcode. And we also, after entering the passcode, have an option for turning that on for individual sessions as well. You should leave that off unless you have a very specific reason for needing that, because you don't want guests to have to enter the passcodes for every single time they open their session. Okay, and also when we email out the guests, so if the guests enter their email address into the app and get an email or a text, by default, we're going to include this passcode in that text or email so that they know it and they can see the entire gallery. If you don't want that, you just turn that off, and it's then up to you to communicate your passcode to your guests or not. And finally, we have something called the super passcode. The super passcode is basically like giving someone the same access as you, the owner, to the entire gallery. That includes being able to delete photos, any photos, not just your own, and being able to do things like download the guest information if people have entered their phone number or email into the app. So you wouldn't usually turn this on unless you have an assistant or someone who's not signed in as you, but you want them to be able to moderate the gallery. We're going to leave that blank. And finally, that last option down at the bottom, that's showing that I can have the ability only to let people with the super passcode or myself signed in to download the zip file. The zip file is all the photos. And by default, we restrict that to you and your guests with the super passcode. Okay, let's head over to the branding tab. So you're going to spend some time here. We recommend that you have a look at this on your iPad at the same time. So we're going to come back to this when we're showing the iPad at the same time. And ditto with the branding iPad side. We'll get more into those later, and consent as well. So these three tabs affect not only what's shown on the gallery webpage, but also how the iPad shows its user interface as well. Okay, we'll save our changes and pop out here. Okay, and here you can see the dates changed as I changed it. And just scrolling down a bit, you can see if I'd added notes, they would be here. Once people start using the app and start viewing the gallery online, we'll see some information about the gallery here, and the information entered by the guests will be here. And we'll get into that in another video. Okay, so let's go back to the templates page. So let's say I want to customize my own template. We've made another video for that, but I'm going to do that really quickly. It's easiest just to start from another template. So I'm going to start from the plain. I've clicked on it and I'm starting from the plain 4x6 portrait template. I'm going to say add to my templates. Just click add. And now this is my own copy of it. So if I go back to templates, you can now see I've got my copy of it up here. And the reason it's important to have my own is because you're allowed to make changes to your own one. So I'll click on those three dots, click edit, and now I have this layer editor here. So in this video, I'm just going to really quickly at high level talk about how this works. We have another video that goes into more detail. But basically, you can upload individual photos as layers. And when you do that, here's a picture of me and my daughter. And I'll just shove that on the top. Once you've added that, you can drag it around. I'm going to stick that near the bottom corner there, and it will automatically save your changes. And you can see these are in the order of top to bottom. So let's go ahead. I'm going to actually select the photo area here, and I'm going to resize it to be a different size. I'm going to size that down. And I'm going to create another photo area by clicking Create Photo Area and drag that over here. Now you can see this has the number 2 on it. So the 2 stands for it's where the second photo that the iPad app takes, where it's going to put that. So it'll put the first photo here and the second photo there. Now, if I wanted to, I could have as many copies of that second photo as I want. So if I go click on this photo area here and where it says order there, I change that to 2. Now what would happen is the iPad would take 2 photos. It would stick the first one here, and the second one, it would stick it in 2 places, here and here. I hope that makes sense. Okay, and of course I can change the background color if I want. Let's go for something a little more purple. Okay, so there's a very silly template. If you want to move the layers around, you use these arrows. So for example, let's say I wanted to have this picture partially underneath. I can click the down arrow on here to get it underneath, and now you can see it's kind of underneath there. You can also delete layers and duplicate them with these buttons here. I'm just going to delete this second copy of the photo area like so. And each time I pause for a moment and do nothing, then my template changes will be saved. Okay, great. So I've made these changes to my template. Let's go back to the event that we have. And you'll see by default, my event is not using that template that I just created. So when you create an event, create a template, it isn't automatically used by your events. You then have to tell your event, hey, I want to use that template. So let's do that now. Let's click on Change on Templates, and then we'll click on there to select the one that I've just made. And let's say we only want that one. Okay, let's save that. Oh, my bad. There was another one selected down here. All right, and now we've got just the template that you saw me messing around with before, and that's the only one this event is going to use. Okay, great. Okay, so the next thing that we need to do is get the app installed on the iPad. So here you can see I've got my iPad screen shared onto the video here, and we're in the App Store app. So let's go ahead and find the Booth.Events app. Let's go to the Search tab of the App Store, and we'll type in Booth.Events, and up pops Booth.Events. Great. Okay, I'm going to start that downloading. And once we've got the app open, it's going to ask us for the same email and password that we used when we signed up and signed into the web app. So we'll wait for that to finish downloading here. We'll hit open. And now I need to remember the same email and password. So for my demo, my password. Okay, and then once I've done that, I hit sign in. And when I hit sign in, I'm going to get asked for some permissions that the app needs. You need to say OK to all of them. So I'm just going to hit OK on the permissions, and I'm going to allow access to all photos. I'm going to access the microphone. I'm going to choose to save the password. Great. Okay, and now we can see the home screen of the app. So you can see now that that event that we already created, that's been synchronized to the iPad. So the way that data flows from the web app, from the website, down to the iPad is automatically. You don't need to tell the iPad app to go and get data or to do anything. It's going to get the data by itself as soon as that data is available every time. Okay, I can also see there were some downloads that happened. What happened there was that template that we made, we assigned to the event, the iPad realized it needed to download that for the event, so it pulled all of the parts for that down. So I'm going to go ahead and touch the event row there. And when I pop that open, I can see that I've got a bunch of options here. This is what we call the event settings on the iPad. There's kind of three sets, the 3 pages. You can see those on the bottom there. The first one is, well, which template are we using, and which attract screen, which sticker set, which camera, and that's this first page here. And I can also see any notes that I put into the event. So if I wanted to, I could change the templates right here without using the website. I also can touch the camera to pull up the camera settings. And if I want to change what the app's camera settings are, then I can do that in here. We're going to leave them at the default, which is what we recommend for everyone. And we'll do another video that goes into more detail on this page later. Okay, so let's go to the second page of the event settings on the iPad. So that at the bottom, I'm going to touch that little camera icon. And this page and the next one are the one where you're going to want to have a look at what's available there. First of all, at the top, I can see which capture types the iPad is going to let guests use. So guests will choose what they want to do, if they want to make photos or do a slow-mo or whatever. And if for whatever reason I don't want them to be able to choose anything, I can turn some of these off. So for example, if I do this, now guests won't even get the choice, it'll just go straight into taking photos. Or perhaps you have a 360 spinner booth and you only want slow-mos to be the thing, so that's great. You would just set it like this with only slow-mos on. Okay, let's leave them all on for now for the demo of this video here. So here on the capture setup section, you can see I have a get ready timer and a countdown timer. So the get ready timer is the first thing that happens when the guest selects to start taking photos or a video or whatever. And by default, we have that as a 3-second timer. If you find that too much, you can just slide that all the way to the left and there won't be a get ready timer anymore. But we recommend having one. After the get ready timer has played just once, then it will do the countdown. And so for the first photo, there's a countdown, then the second photo, there's a countdown, the third photo, there's a countdown. So we recommend having that countdown timer there. If, for example, you're only doing slow-mos, then you can turn the get ready timer off and just use the countdown timer. And then the last slider you can see there is the slow-mo record time, and that's how long the slow-mo will be taking the video for. Of course, since it gets slowed down, the resulting video is much longer than this. This is the record time that's being shown there. Okay, there's a bunch more settings. I won't go into too much more detail here. We recommend you leave those alone. On the last page there, you can see that we're using the shared gallery. That's good. That means our photos will get uploaded to the gallery, and that's what we want. And you can see I've set a passcode. If you remember, that was the word passcode. And by default, you can see that the guests are allowed to email or text and use the QR code. If for some reason you don't want to allow them to type in an email address or whatever, you can turn that off. That's up to you. And by default, we have AirDrop disabled because the way Apple AirDrop works is that it can expose other parts of your iPad that you might not want. So we have that off by default. I'm going to go ahead and turn that on. And printing, again, we have that turned off by default. You need to add the printer first before you turn that on. So let's, we'll handle that in another video, but you can see it was back on the home screen. There's that add printer button there. Okay, so now I want to start the event, and I have two options. I can either click preview, and that is going to start the event without any uploads going into my gallery, or I can launch the event, and that's the full-blown thing with the uploads turned on. And the reason we allow you to do both is because the expiry of your event in your event gallery is tied to whether uploads have happened yet. So if I just preview it, then there's no chance I can start that timer going, that my event won't have been used yet. It'll be still a fresh event and I can use any time. So I'm going to hit the preview button for now. And in preview, you can see at the top here, there are no uploads, email, text, or QR code, because if we're not uploading photos to the gallery, there's nothing we can email out to guests, no link. Okay, I get a little pop-up here explaining that I'm previewing this event, and it says that I need to press and hold 2 fingers on the screen to get back to event settings. And here you can see my attract screen has fired because a small amount of time has passed and no one has been looking at the iPad. If I hold the iPad up to my face and look at it, the attract screen goes away. Now what's happening there is that the iPad is using the camera to see that there's a face right in front of it, and when it sees a face, it's going to turn the attract screen off. Now, let's go ahead and practice exiting the event and going back to the event settings. So I'm going to take 2 fingers and hold them on the screen of the iPad. When I hold them on the screen of the iPad for a moment, that causes this menu to pop up. So the idea is that it's easy for you to do, and it's not obvious for guests to do this. All right, and I hit close event, and now by default, because this is the first time I've done it, it's going to ask me if I want to use Face ID. I'm going to say yes, and that's how I'm allowed to exit the event, because you don't want your guests being able to exit the event once it's started. Okay, now that attract screen came on a little too quickly for me, so I'm going to go back to the event settings, scroll down a bit, and where it says attract screen delay 20 seconds, I'm going to crank that up to 5 minutes for the purposes of this demo. Okay, good. And now I'm going to go back into previewing my event. Okay, great. So let's take some photos. I'm going to hit the 2 photos button there. And you can see there's my get ready timer. And now I've got a countdown timer as guests get into position. And then the first photo's taken. And now we have the countdown timer again. And now I have my second photo being taken. And there we go. There are my 2 photos. Now the iPad puts them in the template that we used. And now you can see how our template is used. The guests have the default stickers to choose from. So I'll just chuck one on there. And at the moment, because we're in preview mode, we don't have the ability to email or text. We just have AirDrop, because AirDrop and printing are the only actions that work in preview mode. Okay, I'm just going to hit I'm done, and I'm back to the start. So that's the main flow of how the app works. Okay, so let's exit the event again by holding 2 fingers down. Remember, you hold 2 fingers on the screen for a couple of seconds. I'm going to hit close event and use my Face ID to get out of the event. And now this time, let's actually launch the event. But before we do that, did you notice how it said capture this moment on that home screen there? Let's go ahead and change that. Okay, so here I am back on the website, and I'm going to hit the edit button on the event here. And if I go over to branding, and branding iPad, I can see capture this moment is a message here at the top. So let's change that message to demos are really hard to do live. And we're going to put a little hashtag, let's say my event, and we'll leave everything else the same for now and hit save changes. Okay, great. Now if I go back to the iPad, I'm going to launch the event this time. And you can see now on the iPad that message that I put there and that hashtag are now right there on the home screen. So that's how easy it is to customize the iPad app. And you can go a lot further than that, but it's simple. Okay, so I'm going to go pop back out of the event again because I want to show that screen I skipped past really quickly. When I hit launch event like this, you get this kind of checklist here. And in this particular instance, there are no problems. There are no red or yellow warnings. But we really encourage you just to take a second to read through that and make sure everything's how you expect it should be. And if there are any issues there, for example, like some of the template hasn't been downloaded, or you're offline, you'll either get a warning telling you can continue, such as if you're offline, but just letting you know you are. Or if you can't continue, for example, your iPad has no more space left, it can't record any photos, then the app will block you from launching the event. Okay, so let's go ahead and start the event. And this time we're going to take some photos and we're going to actually share them out. So tell you what, let's do, instead of photos, let's do let's do photos. Okay, let's do some photos here. Great, so I get my timers, do one photo and a second photo. Looks like I moved and that one got pretty blurry. Okay, great, there's my second photo. And I'll stick a sticker on there and twist it around with my two fingers. I'll hit next. Okay, so now I'm going to put in an email. Let's put in hello plus demo. All right, this is an email address for the demo. We'll send that. So I get a chance to confirm that that's right. Yep, that's right. Send it. Okay, and now if I wanted to as the guest, I could also stick in a phone number as well, or directly use the QR code and scan that to get there as well. And when I hit I'm done, then it's ready for the next guest. But now if we go back to the event in a second, I'll tell you what, we'll exit the event on the iPad so you can see the progress here. So you can see the uploads and shares are now finished. All of that has now finished on the side. And you can see I now have less than 100 photos left. I have that, and there's the guest information that was just entered. So this view on the website, that updated automatically. I didn't have to reload this web page in order for that to happen. This view here is going to update in real time as new information comes in. Okay, that's nice and easy. Okay, so let's go get that email. So here's the email that I received when I typed in my email address, and you can see that's got the name of the event, the passcode, the link, and you can customize what's in this email and how it looks in the sharing settings on your account page that we saw earlier. Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll open that link. So we'll just pretend we hit the button straight up, and what we get is I'm just going to get a link to the photos I just took, my guest session. If I want to, I can see the entire gallery because you remember we allowed that to be on. If I want to go and see the entire gallery, remember we said we needed to have a passcode? So I've clicked it and now I'm being asked for the passcode. And I'm going to type in the word passcode. That's what we set. And once I set in the passcode, now I can see the whole gallery. And at the moment, these are the only photos that got updated or uploaded. So these are the only ones there. All right, and if I want to, I can click into one of them and see the full resolution version. I can download it, copy the link, share it. It's all nice and easy from there. Okay, that's a quick first look at Booth.Events, a quick tour around the entire surface area of the app on the web and on the iPad. There's a ton we didn't cover, but I hope this gives you a really good example of how to start and how to get yourself started. If you have any problems or questions, you need to use this little question mark here in the bottom right. When I click that, then I can see all of the sort of help articles we built for you to explain how things work. But most importantly, you can click ask and then email us. And that's the fastest way to get our attention. We usually write back within a few hours, often on normal evenings when events are happening really quickly. So go ahead and email us anytime you have a question. You can also search for help topics in here. And of course, if you liked the video, please let us know by subscribing or leaving a comment on the video. All the best for your next event.